you so much. I'm kind of doing what Valia just did, only maybe smaller, and with less certainty, and with fewer pictures. I don't know. So thank you for advancing my slides for me. So the history of this project came out of, so we've been doing xenolinguistics for a long time, and by that I mean lots of people make up fun languages for their aliens, right? That's sort of where it started. And then there are people like, no, let's make those languages, you know, a little more language-ish, and less like just English with different, you know, stuff. And so the idea of driving this towards something that could be science or linguistics has been also around for a long time. And this project in particular started to happen after the publication of a book called Xenolinguistics Toward a Science of Extraterrestrial Language, edited by Bakich and Punsky. And there's a bunch of us who contributed articles to this book, and we were really excited about it, and it did, you know, for an academic book, it's done okay, and people were interested. And, but then we realized that we were just saying to each other the things that we said to each other in other edited volumes, and we're this mounting sense of frustration. So in 2003, a small group of us organized a Xenolinguistics conference in Carbondale, Illinois. It was awesome, where we got together and repeated ourselves some more, which was super frustrating. And so we decided that what we need to do is try to make progress, right? And thank you for this turn of phrase, and avoid the grand panic. Because if we ever do encounter a language or something that we think is a language that's extraterrestrial, it would be really nice if we had some groundwork laid in advance. And that's really hard to do if you haven't encountered the language yet. And as far as I know, we have not encountered an alien language yet, except maybe my Uber driver seemed to think that maybe we had. We only had 8 minutes in the car, and he was difficult to pin down. But so we don't know. But the thing that we want to get to is, can we harness our community wisdom and figure out what it is we want to do, what it is we really think, and how strongly we think it, so that we at least have our presuppositions and our assumptions online and ready to hand, so that if we're trying to decode something, we can go, wait a minute, we've been working on this for a while, we've all been assuming this one thing, what if that one thing isn't true? So it's always useful to have your presuppositions handy so you can cast them away. And as also with that sort of a sense of how strongly we all want to cling to a particular belief about what ET language is going to be like. Okay, next slide please. So the existing definitions of language tend to be sort of based on these theoretical concepts that are drawn from human language. And I'm testing out the term geolinguistics here because I love that definition, the difference between global and universal.
You changed it to anthro last night.
Oh, I did. Thank you. Okay, so anthro, which I don't like either, but we're working on it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that very much. I'll probably change it on the train on the way home too. Let's see. So like these definitions of what human language, that's one. I know there are 7,000 existing languages, but we are one species. And so there's a lot of things the same about all 7,000 of our languages. And I think, so when we have to also acknowledge that the aliens might have more than one language, but we're not going to worry about that right now, because we can't worry about everything at the same time. Also, our goal is not to argue about syntax. I refuse to argue about syntax, because I hate arguing about syntax. Because I think honestly there's more important and deeper things to think about first. Right? So our goal is to lay out probable characteristics of ET languages. And so we're not worrying exactly about what it is, but we're trying to figure out, well, what's going to matter? What's going to matter to what it's like, if you can stand that sentence. So in whatever it is, and I think the other thread that I want to keep weaving through this is whatever it is, can we learn it? Because that's going to be important to us, and this is our project, and so we might as well introduce that little piece of selfishness in there. Next slide, please. So here's a starting list of what things we think matter. So computational style matters. So a language is probably going to have signs referring to things, actions, ideas. This goes back to Marvin Minsky in the 1980s, who said, well, there'd be nouns and verbs, and while linguists can get together and scoff at that as overly simplistic, we can also say, yeah, there's probably going to be signs for something. There's going to be some kind of thing that you might conceivably call a word. And then if you've got those words, there's going to be something that allows you to combine those words to make meaning. And for the linguists, I don't know, you can call that merge if you want to. And again, I'm not going to argue about syntax. I'm not going to argue about syntax. But theoretically, there's an inverse relationship between these two things, right? If you've got lots and lots and lots and lots of words, you've got a word for every conceivable idea, then you've got lots of words. You don't need very many rules to combine them. I've got a word for that. I've got a word for waking up early in the morning to, have breakfast before I go to the conference. Could that be one word? I don't know. So if I've got lots and lots of words, then maybe my rules can be simplified. But if I've only got a few words, then I need really complicated rules to combine them in order to make my meaning. So our sort of relationship between the number of words and the kind of rules is neatly tailored to our cognition. No surprise, because evolution, right? So it works. This works for us to have a certain number of words in a language and a certain complexity of syntactic rules to combine those words to make meaning, and that's working for us. That's good, and we're sort of used to that balance. But that balance could be thrown off. That balance could be different if they can do more storage than we can do, for example. Next slide. This is pretty straightforward. Computational speed matters based on your biology, or maybe if you become a machine, this could change, right? The rate of transmission of processing. We have a pretty limited speed at which we can listen. Unless you've got some training, then you can listen faster, right? Some of us can zoom those podcast playbacks up pretty high, and others of us can't. But there's a limit, right? Information density matters. I can't listen as fast to material that's more complex. And the potential for parallel processing. If you're getting more than one signal that's relevant that you have to integrate at the same time, that is going to also affect your computational ability. What can we really absorb, and how fast can we do it? Next slide. Biology matters, and this is pretty straightforward. This is just the medium of what the language is built around. We do a lot of our Earth languages with sound and some with gesture, but there are certainly other possibilities if your biology were to allow it. Flashes of light, chemical impulses, other kinds of signals. And what those signals are, what the medium is, right, what the medium is has implications for the language structure and has implications for learnability. So for example, the structure of signed languages allows you to do a little bit more parallel processing than you can do with spoken languages. So with signed languages, the look on your face, where your eyebrows are doing, where you're standing in space, if you move around a little bit while you're talking, that can allow you to embody different characters or different aspects of your story that you can't do as straightforwardly as you can with spoken languages. And if we can't detect the medium that it's in, harken back to the little fuzzies, our little friends from the 1950s. That's a problem for us. Next slide, please. Biology matters in terms of embodiment. I think about this a lot. Body form and sensory inputs shape reality and shape your perception of the world, which will have an impact on your language. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of which came first, thought or language. We'll stay out of that rabbit hole for now. It's a good one. We should go down it later, maybe. But a minor example of that is in this volume somewhere. There's my medium strong attempt, I think, to create a language an oral language that could be spoken by my little blind alien friends that I always return to. I had various names for these, my blind aliens, and my friend Josh Mealy insisted at one point that they be called the Braillians, which I think is funny. But it's kind of too funny, so I don't like to introduce them that way, because people will giggle at them and we won't be able to do science. Because it's hard to do science when you're giggling, at least for but anyway, like your sensory inputs, if you take that seriously, can structure the way you think. If you don't have a dominant culture that's sort of steamrolling over that, but your sensory inputs can influence the way you think, and so can your body plan. Maybe that's why we don't understand dolphin language yet, if that's a language. I don't know. It's another rabbit hole not to go down. Probably not an expert there. Next slide. So biology may matter if there is some kind of language gene. If you want to start a fight with a room full of linguists, just ask them how much of language is innate and wired into your brain, and how much flows from naturally occurring cognitive and intellectual processes. You'll get an argument. Thank you. Like a lot of us are sort of over that argument now, maybe, where we sort of agreed to go, I don't know, which I think is a really good place to be. If you want to get your work done, everyone can just continue working on whatever it is you need to work on without causing too many fights. We do still fight about syntax, though. So human children do learn language at kind of a wicked speed, but also they have a lot of time. That's the only thing they're kind of doing. I'm not going to argue with you about how much of language is innate. I don't think I want to do that. But it does matter, right? Like if there is some kind of, quote, magic, biologically programmed thing that makes Earth languages learnable, and there's one of those for ET and we don't have it, then it could be that we're just never going to learn their languages. I feel like that's not, I mean, we have to account for it, but there's nothing we can do about that, right? If the language is biologically unlearnable for us, then maybe Claude will learn it for us, I guess, and let us know what they're saying. And I don't know if we want to go there or not, but how much of their language is innate to them in a way that we cannot get there, even if we think about embodiment and speed and all these other things that maybe we can compensate for. Next slide, please. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but deixis is really important in language. So for those of you who don't think about these terms all the time, so deixis is this thing where I can have a single pronoun, a single word in my language that can place a thing in space. So I can talk about, this chair if it's near me, and that chair if it's over there. And in some dialects of English, I can have yonder chair, which is the chair beyond both of us. But what if I had more and increased? If I could populate the space around us with more deictic words, so I could refer to this chair that is exactly positioned in the middle between me and you, without going to all the trouble to say in the middle of me and you. There's just another kind of that. That means a chair in that space. Or if there's a word for, well, it's not directly between me and you, it's kind of over to that side, that chair, over there, without pointing. I'm just trying to rid the world of pointing. I mean, that was an aspect in my Braillean's language, right? That you would have increased words for deixis because you couldn't have pointing. And I think that's a fun example to take up. The example that I often use in that context is, that all the trouble you have when you're moving a couch, and you got one end of the couch and the other guy's got the other end of the couch, you're like, lift it up, no, your other up, no, over. Like if you had better words, you could do that better, right? So how much personal and spatial and conversational deixis can you have, and what other kinds of deixis are possible? Next slide, please. Some of the traditional Hocket design features of language almost certainly matter, and just reminding my time here. Productivity almost certainly matters. You're going to want to have your language set up so that you can say novel things that you've never said before. I don't know what good a language would be as a language if you couldn't say new things in it. Same thing with displacement. Displacement is a characteristic of human languages where you can talk about things that aren't there. So ideas that are in your head. I don't know how you would get together and use your language to build technology if you couldn't have that. Arbitrariness is just the reality that that the sign and the signifier are different things. So my word for chair is not a chair, and it's arbitrarily attached. A chair could be a silla, a chair could be an isu, a chair could be all kinds of different things. The exact form of the word doesn't matter. It's arbitrary. Okay, next slide, please. So some aspects. Thank you. Some aspects of culture definitely matter, but we don't know what those are, of course, right? But some aspects of culture that affect human language are rules for conversation, the courtesy rules, what is insulting, what really you should not say to people, especially if you're an Uber driver. Like things that are just not, it's not okay, right? You don't say those things. Conventions for how languages are to be taught is not something that we usually talk about, but I think that it is really important. So do I expect you, how do I teach you my language? How do I interact with you if you don't share a language? What are the rules there? We have sets of these for human languages, we as humans have sets of these. Some of them are helpful and some of them are not, but we definitely have them. And unpacking that, how would they expect us to deal when we don't understand or when they don't understand? So what are we doing? Last slide, please. So what are we doing with this mess? What we're doing with this mess is this. We're trying to put it together, trying to figure out, so this is an outline which has some things taken out of it for time's sake. And then our idea is that we take this and we pass it back around to each other and we argue fiercely about what we think is included and what shouldn't be included and what we have forgotten. And then we want to talk about how probable or how important, both how important each thing is and how probable it is that it is in an ET language. Just sort of lay out the conceptual space. And then we will rinse and repeat, right? And once we get this outline, we pass it around. We decide what we think, we pass it around again, and we get to the point where we can agree to disagree about smaller things. Right now we're maybe agreeing to disagree about big things, but maybe we can agree to disagree about the smallest things that we can do that for. And our goal is to see where this goes and hopefully make some progress and avoid the grand panic.